Yeah, for sure.
Three, two,
Whereabouts
one.
from the UK are you from anyway?
So I'm from the northwest in the UK. Have you ever been to the UK
Northwest.
before?
No, no, I haven't yet, but my sister actually moved to London.
Mm.
Uh, so she's been there for like a year. Um, yeah, I do love watching like British crime drama, especially like Guy Ritchie stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's awesome, isn't it?
No,
Watching
no,
this
I
guy
haven't
like with
yet,
the
but my sister actually moved to
Liverpoolian
London.
accent. Yeah, yeah. Oh god, we've got some.
Returns.
We got some funky accents. I mean, Australia's got a lot of funky
You do.
accents as well. I went to Australia in
Yeah.
20. You're in the east of Australia, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne.
Ah, right. I've been
So
to.
my accent isn't like, it's not fucking strong as fuck, it's not like
Yeah,
that strong, but
there was there was a lot of skeets cants when I
I'm a
went.
city dweller.
There was a lot of skeets
Yeah,
cunts when
motherfuckers.
I went to Perth. My family lives in Mandurah, which is near
Oh,
Perth.
really?
Yeah, they moved there in 2010, so I went over there in 2012. They come back and forth, and so it's quite a long time ago. I can't really remember. I'm quite a scatterbrain, but it was it was fascinating because I guess not living in Australia, I have all these ideas of what it's gonna be like. Oh my god, there's fucking spiders everywhere, man! Like the kangaroos are gonna fucking start being shit out of you, man. So, and it was a lot more relaxed than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's not so crazy. It's the things that you least expect, like the magpies who swoop you during the spring. They're the ones that are like
It's like,
fucking crazy, man.
yeah, the
I had
real
my
schizo.
one of my mates got his eye almost poked out and shit.
Oh really?
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. But that being said, like I know we got like the spiders and the snakes and all that kind of stuff, but I'd rather that than like having bears like they do in America.
Oh yeah,
To
one
me,
hundred
that
percent.
sounds like way more scary. Like, could you imagine
Yeah,
coming
we're
across a freaking bear in the woods? Like, what do you even do?
we're very lucky in the
They can
UK.
climb trees and shit.
In the
Hey?
we're very lucky in the UK because our most dangerous animal is probably like a cow. If it gets well, it's not even enraged. It might just people are actually scared of cows in the UK. They're like, oh no, don't go near them cows, lad. They might have you.
Wow.
But this cows get scared and they might just like run towards you. It's very very rare that happens. But yeah, it's interesting to live in the UK and then go to these well, literally almost like any other country, and there actually is genuine bestial animals that are out to out to get you. I went to Croatia last year, and we actually had to look. We were in the outskirts. We were not in a city. We were right in the sticks, and they actually warned of us about bears. Obviously, it's very very rare chance of running into a bear, but there is always that chance.
Yeah, living on the edge.
I know,
I
right?
would, dude, I wouldn't even know what to do. Back
It's
away slowly, like you're supposed to like stand tall and scared. You're supposed to like drop dead. I don't
it,
even know, man.
well, my
Say your
co
prayers, like
oh, I'd be saying a few prayers, definitely. My co-host Tales from the Trip, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, will be here in spirit. He was telling me about bears. He was saying the best thing. I don't think he's ever encountered a bear, but if you're American, I guess you gotta know this shit. You just stand still, don't you? You try and just be as you try and eradicate any fear, which is easier said than done, especially when a bear's looking at you. Probably the most fearful moment of your life. But if you just basically just stand there, just like a robot, and or just sit down, and they might just leave you alone, because animals are
yeah,
very
you gotta. I
reactive.
guess yeah, exactly. I guess it's like I don't know if it's like dogs because I remember in Bangkok they have a lot of gangs of dogs and you can
Mm.
actually they like take over the streets. It's scary as I was walking like I don't know midnight just down the street by myself and I just got cornered by like 5 to 7 dogs. I was like, fuck, and you can't run away because then they're definitely gonna chase you, and you can't like be too aggressive because then they're gonna attack you. So you got to kind of like back away slowly, but still be stoic in your presence, kind of thing. Like, hey, 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 stay back, stay back.
What's
That's
the
scary,
most
man, dude.
What's the most dangerous country you've been to,
Uh,
or where you felt
probably.
in danger?
Yeah, I was gonna say, not really. I don't know, because like in India, for example, there were some parts that felt really dodgy, but I don't. Indians are so friendly that I didn't feel that
Hmm.
in danger. Probably South America, man. I
Yeah.
just, yeah, probably South America. Like, even just my hometown, Chile, like just going into the dodgy parts
So you're
because
originally
I
from
yeah.
Chile?
Well, I wasn't born there, but my mum was
All right.
born there, and I was, I've been there like, yeah, 12 times.
Mm.
Yeah, so I've been going back and forth there my whole life, but yeah, definitely South America because I know that they're kind of dodgy, and it's been more dangerous now, actually. Uh, I think just because I don't know what it is. Some people just say because a lot of immigration and because Venezuela is just falling apart and a lot of them are moving and Colombians and
Mm.
Chileans aren't exactly yeah, they're pretty dodgy too.
They're not the chillest of people. We always get an idea of it. Well, this is a thing about everyone always has these ideas. Oh, I'm not going to this country because it's too dangerous, or you hear all about this stuff in India, and like you go to India, you're gonna get robbed or whatever. It's like a lot of it is assumptions, isn't it? The only way to actually know
Sure.
is to go there, and oftentimes the reality tricks you, and it shows you that it was actually all imaginary, and often you can have a good time everywhere, pretty much. But you've
Oh,
also got to have,
absolutely.
you got also got to be smart about it. Don't be stupid and think, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to literally the highest listed dangerous place in the world and expect reality to be okay. But yeah,
Exactly.
the
Because if you go to a local, then they'll know, like, all right, just avoid these streets during these times, and like they kind of have the tricks of the trade kind of thing.
mm,
Because, dude, there are places in Australia which I would feel more dangerous walking through than a lot of developing countries, you know?
same here in the
And
UK.
I found out not too long ago that Alice Springs, for example, the town right in the center of Australia, is like the 18th or 19th most dangerous country in the world, and it's the stab capital of the world.
Is it?
So that's like in a list with like all these South African countries, South American countries. It's like all these countries, all these cities that you're like, oh yeah, yeah, I could see that. And then it's like Australia, Alice Springs, and it's like, whoa.
Yep.
There's a really cool documentary that Spaniard made. So if you want to check that out, but
Mm.
yeah, like danger lurks in any corner, you know. But
Yes.
there's also amazing places. So it's just you got to have your wits about you.
Me and Trip were talking about this a few weeks ago, where we said that yes, building on your point, where say I'm here in this house in this area, it's really peaceful, um, almost like paradise, and then you literally just go 2 minutes down the road onto an English council estate, and it's almost like a hell realm. There's some hell realms inside these houses. So it's like, yeah, we're always projecting like, oh no, this country's worse than this country, blah blah blah. And it's like, no, it's much more nuanced than that, isn't it? Um,
Absolutely.
right, I'll just redial for a sec because that was a really interesting conversation. But I'll just say to all the viewers, I've mentioned this many times before, and as we were talking, I've been following Tom's content for a very very long time, and by far my biggest inspiration for Vivec, because you really were the first person I noticed online that was just talking about the things I was thinking. I mean, on YouTube, rather. I'd go on like Earwid and all these other sites, psychedelic sites, Reddit, DMT Nexus, and that, and it was just different when I found your content to actually have someone saying it to you. I just wanted to ask you. Obviously, I bet you've been asked this many times, but what inspired you to actually do YouTube in the first place?
So yeah, first thanks, man. I appreciate the
No,
kind
man.
words. It's awesome. And yeah, my first inspiration for starting my YouTube channel. I guess it all started like before, like discovering Joe Rogan talking about DMT, especially Graham Hancock and Aubrey Marcus. Those were the two that kind of really inspired me to go and drink ayahuasca.
Mm.
And so fast forward a year, I'm like in the Amazon rainforest, facing my demons, but also having beautiful trips. But my first ceremony was like freaking terrifying, and it was after that, a few days after my ayahuasca retreat, I had a San Pedro ceremony, and through that experience, basically I got the insight of like, hey, maybe you should start like a blog and a
Mm.
YouTube channel. I think it was a blog more specifically, and then I basically started a Squarespace website, and yeah, made a blog about my first ayahuasca experience, and that kind of went semi-viral. And then I made a video based on that first blog, and then it just kind of started from there.
Mm.
And yeah, I just committed. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do one video every week.
Yeah.
And this is from someone who had like zero experience with speaking or writing or anything like that. But I kind of, yeah, I guess I had a bit of luck with that very first video because I noticed that there weren't too many people talking about these kind of things, especially ayahuasca. Like, I certainly couldn't find anyone near my groups. Like, I didn't even have friends who had friends who had done ayahuasca. So I had like zero, literally no one to talk to about this stuff. So I was like, oh, maybe there's like a bit of a gap in the market here. Maybe I should start speaking about these things. And I think shortly after that, I discovered Psych Substance, and then he inspired me like, oh wow, you can actually like make a living through this, you know, and like really up the video production. And I think from there, yeah, like, you know, when you make a video every week, it's not always going to be good stuff, but at least you get the experience and you develop skills.
That's it.
And I think not too long after that, I started doing like more documentary style videos. I'm pretty sure like I've deleted it since, but I was the first guy on YouTube to, you know, just to pat myself on the back. But,
Go on, lad.
but I was the first guy on YouTube to document my microdosing experiment.
That's very true.
Because I know people have like maybe made blogs and stuff, but yeah, because I didn't see anything. But I deleted it because I had like just really irresponsible video. Like I had a jar of mushrooms and scales, and I was like, nah, this is gonna bite me in the ass later. So.
That's an interesting segue because I know that you had 2 strikes, was it last year or something? You got hit with them.
Yeah, well, I've had probably many more. I think altogether probably like 5 strikes, but I've appealed them all except for one, which was for picking mushrooms. Yeah.
How bizarre! Yeah, you don't know what's right and wrong with the YouTube overlords. It's a tricky one.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I actually got my Facebook page got suspended, like
Really?
just the other day, and I don't even know what it's from because I've had Facebook for like I don't know what 9 years probably now. So it's just like the only reason they gave me is like drugs. It's like, all right, well, can you tell me like which video was it? Like, how can I improve? Like, could I delete it? Can I appeal it? They just give you nothing. At least YouTube nowadays, they used to be much worse before, but now they give you like a timestamp and stuff. Like my last weed documentary got demonetized after it reached like 100K. And then I appealed it and they told me the exact timestamp. And so then that way you can actually appeal it much easier. It's like, hang on, this timestamp is saying that this is recreational drug, but the timestamp that you quoted was like, it was like Homer Simpson smoking a joint. You know what I mean?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was like one of the cartoon stuff that I use.
It's
I was
usually
like, wait, no, this doesn't. Yeah,
It's usually something asinine like that, isn't it? I've had.
Yeah, exactly.
I've not
exactly.
Tales from the Trip, who I do this with, he had his channel just completely taken down. He didn't even get.
Really?
He didn't even get 3 strikes
On YouTube.
Yeah, because so obviously what I do is that I do trip reports that sort of veer into the mystical side of psychedelics, and he covers more just the completely horrific side of just drugs in general. And we found out afterwards, he did get his channel back, of course, but he found out after the fact that it was due to a video on diphenhydramine, and it was just no different to any of his other videos he's ever made, but for some reason YouTube just decided that one, that was the straw that broke the metaphysical camel's back, and it was like, nah, we're not having you anymore. But then he appealed it, got back on, but it was a serious.
But they deleted the whole channel. That's strange.
Yeah, they took the channel down completely. Just woke up one day and the channel was gone. No reasoning given. And we were trying to theorize what was going on. Then obviously I was bricking it like, fuck me, I'm next now, aren't I? I was just like sitting in bed waiting for that. Right, when's it happening? Just do it now. But yeah, like you say, you just don't really know what the right course of action is when it comes to drugs. And I hate that they
Yeah,
I hate that they lump it into
I know.
drugs, because I always say that my channel isn't about drugs, and your channel isn't about drugs either. It's about, I mean, it's not even just about psychedelics, is it? It's about life and consciousness and
Exactly.
and mystical stuff, and just stuff that's out there, of which psychedelics are a core part. They're a very bizarre facet of reality. I find it.
Yeah, for sure. Psychedelics is like the branding, you know what I mean? Because you got to like choose a niche
Yeah,
that
that's
you want to
it.
talk about all these other things, and that's cool. You got to learn to play the game, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've learned that through these appeal. Like, oh man, it used to just bring me so much more panic and anxiety, and now it's like you kind of get used to it, but then you got to like learn to be diplomatic and be nice. Because I used to email a lot more emotionally, and then it wouldn't go my way.
No.
Whereas now it's like you just got to be nice. Talk to the who did I talk to last time? Like Lana. Oh, hi Lana. Hi. There's been a bit of a misunderstanding, and I'll let you go. You just got to be like nice like that sometimes.
Oh,
And
so you
they'll help you out.
talk to an actual person, not a robot, then, on Twitter.
Yeah, I do. I do. Well, it's because I'll appeal. Like if my video gets demonetized, let's say, and I'll appeal it, and then if that gets denied, then I'll go to customer support, and I'll be like, "Hey, excuse me," and then we have a bit of a back and forth, and then they'll give me a list to get like an additional review. I don't go through it too many times, but I actually get more demonetization issues with cannabis related videos.
Interesting.
Oddly enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is bizarre.
Mushrooms, I mean, except for that, you know, picking and stuff like that, but just talking about mushrooms, or even my 5-MeO DMT, like the video literally starts with me smoking this freaking thing.
Yeah, no,
no
right?
issues whatsoever. So it's, I don't know, man. I
Yeah.
guess because it's like ceremonial, more documentary. Maybe they're
I don't know how they
afraid of
rationalize
being
it.
racist against the indigenous.
Yeah,
I don't know what
maybe.
it is,
I
man.
don't know what their agenda
Sometimes,
is.
yeah,
They don't.
exactly. So
Yeah, they don't. They're
I-
not very clear with how they present what's okay to make. Because, like I say, on my channel, Trip Reports, it's not. I never show anything visceral, but what's being discussed is extremely visceral, very explicit. But anyone with a brain can watch it and realize. Whether it's I'm sharing a report of someone else or sharing my own experience or talking about psychedelics, 100% is harm reduction, and all you have to do is look in the comments, see how many people gain some form of insight from it. And I'm not sure if, well, I imagine many people have messaged you, but I get quite a lot of people messaging me, and they might have taken the video the wrong way, like, oh, okay, yeah, Vivec, bro, I've never taken psychedelics before, and I'm going to take like 50 grams. Is this a good idea? And then obviously I tell them why that's not a good idea, and in a very polite, conscious manner. But that's an outlier. The majority, 90% of the audience gets it. So yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You're always going to get the outliers who misinterpret whatever content they're watching. You know, I'm sure some people watch Fast and Furious and actually get a car and drive like crazy. But it's not everybody.
Yes, that's definitely a reality that has existed, isn't it? I was going to ask you as well. This was what really fascinated me. You made that video where it was like 31 years old and depressed, and obviously it struck me and a lot of your audience. Obviously, really worried for you, and I wanted to just follow up on that. Did you ever actually go for an ADHD diagnosis and pursue any form of like medication?
Okay, so I did get diagnosed when I was a kid.
All right.
So I already knew, but even if I didn't get diagnosed, I just knew for a fact that I had it because and especially, and it's not just like me watching one video and then seeing a few symptoms. I'm like, yep, I have that. It's like, no, it's actually like in-depth reading specific books on ADHD and going through the checklist and da.
Yeah.
But yes, I have been diagnosed, but I didn't go again because I think in Australia it's one of those ones that doesn't get covered by Medicare. And I'm just like, I'm not going to pay $2,000 just to get diagnosed for something that I know that I have. I just kind of wanted to go straight for the pills. But I didn't go for it because I thought, hang on, I'm in a really depressed mood right now and I don't want to make decisions based on this. And I've seen patterns in the past when I get depressed and low, I get desperate. And so For me, luckily, I didn't. Not that I'm saying, just legally, for legal reasons, I'm not going to tell people like that they should or they should avoid it. But for me, I just have to. I would be lying if I didn't say I felt grateful that I didn't go down that route. I read this
Interesting.
really, really helpful book called The Drummer and the Great Mountain. It's basically a guidebook to dealing with ADHD,
Mm.
and it tells you the foundations, how it works. Like I found a really helpful framework that it's like a hunter brain type, so it's an evolutionary type of brain, meaning that because if you look at the hunters back in the day in the hunter gatherer tribes, the people who had like what we might call ADHD, they're the ones who needed to have like their very distractibility. Or for example, like I'd be out in a, I don't know if you have ADHD, but like you might find that you might get distracted or you hear a little noise in the background and you'll just be like ultra hyper aware of everything that's going on.
Oh, that's me in a
But that
nutshell.
was like, yeah, and then basically in this book it describes how that was very advantageous for the hunter brain, and now we live in this society where we kind of do the same thing over and over again. And that's cool if you have like a more of a farmer brain type, what they call, which is like, the 9 to 5, or basically, you plant the same seed all every day, all day, all year round. And that's cool. Like that's just if you work that way, awesome. You live
Yeah.
in a farmer's world. That's great. But a hunter is we need a little bit more variety in our in our environment. That's why they had the running joke, like basically everyone in Hollywood is has ADHD. That's why every creative pretty
Yeah.
much has ADHD. Every entrepreneur probably has ADHD. That's why we get kind of, you know, we get pulled to this kind of career. I think that's why YouTube is perfect because you're not, you got to write, you got to speak, you got to do thumbnails, you got to do marketing, you got to learn business. Like you got to do so many things, even though it's one unifying career. So that's why YouTube for someone with my brain type is perfect. But yeah, basically in this book, it just tells you a lot of different aspects in life how to deal with this. And I felt that, like, for example, diet, which I found interesting, is that people with ADHD are way more sensitive to diet. And I noticed this when I was a kid, like, hang on, how come why I eat more healthy than like all my friends, yet I'm still more tired, I still have more brain fog, things like this. And they showed, I think some studies show that people with ADHD brains are much more sensitive to like artificial sugars and sweeteners and things like that. So basically bad diet and especially carbs like breads and things like this, it affects the ADHD brain like way more dramatically than that with a normal brain type, whatever the fuck normal is.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, that's a really good point. I've actually had a lot of them insights lately, and I was very interested to speak to you about it because through watching your content for a very long time, I saw a lot of myself in you, and it's really interesting to make that comparison to the hunter because quite literally, I'd say, yeah, you said that all the celebrities in Hollywood are ADHD brain because they're sort of like hunting the next big thing, aren't they? They're constantly striving for something, and all of my ADHD friends are they're constantly searching for like the next thing, and that's actually I think like society has made us. Society has made ADHD people think that that's destructive when actually it can be a major positive, and you can create something like as you've done your YouTube, I've done mine, and any ADHD creative person has done. So yeah, I really do think like,
Absolutely.
there's a
And
link.
rigorous exercise, especially cardio, very, very important. Because if you look at, again, in history, we're always like running and walking, going long distances. So that's like incredibly important. Going out. Like, this is all like basic stuff. And I know that exercise is good for everybody. But if you have ADHD, it's like 20 times more important for you to do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, you're going to get more fucked up from being inactive. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those things where it's like, it's positive if you do the right things, but incredibly negative if you don't do the right things.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of us kind of get hooked on these pills and stuff like that. Because instead of changing our environment and our lifestyle, we want to change the chemistry in our brain. And I know, like, again, I know that this can help some people, but for how long? Is this really like a long-term solution? I don't know. That's for your audience to answer for themselves. I just don't know. But I know myself, and I think that like I said, like because I was so depressed and desperate, I was very desperate. I didn't want to make a decision based on that mindset because usually I make very bad decisions when I look back in my life.
Yeah, I'm super
So I just had to
impulsive.
yeah.
Comes with
Yeah. So I kind of had to get my shit together in that aspect because I've struggled with that my whole life, you know, and just to have that kind of even the word hunter brain type and just to really understand like, oh yes, that makes so much sense. Same with like it, for example, addiction and depression. Those are the two, I guess, mental health challenges that I've struggled most in my life. Those are just side effects of having the ADHD brain,
Yes.
especially if you don't, you know, optimize it in a healthy way. And even ADHD can be a dangerous. That's why in this book he uses hunter brain type because ADHD implies a disorder. It implies that you have something wrong with your brain, when really it's a neuro brain type. You know,
Yeah, it's just different.
it's like a
isn't it?
different class. It's like playing a RPG. You know, it's not like a wizard is bad and a barbarian is good. It's just no. It's just different classes, different strengths and
Yeah.
weaknesses.
I love your
Because there
video
are
game
certain things
analogies.
yeah. Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Because like having the hunter brain type, like I have a lot of advantages. Like because when I'm focused, I'm fucking hyper focused. You know,
Yeah.
I just need to have a quiet environment, but I'm also easily distracted. So if I hear someone, you know, rustling in the kitchen, like that will really bother me. Or if I'm watching a movie and someone's on their phone on my periphery, like that bothers me.
Oh mate, that's
You know what I
hilarious.
mean?
That's
You know?
so me. That's so me. Whereas other people will they can just let that they can bypass that, can't they? They won't even acknowledge it. That's the neurotypical
Exactly.
mindset. And yeah, I'm glad you've said
So
that.
this, yeah. So this whole thing of having ADHD of like, oh, I can't focus. I need this, or this. It's like I'm a testament to saying like I can focus better than like all my friends who don't have ADHD.
Yeah.
Once I optimize my brain in a way that helps me utilize it, so I can harness this kind of power. I'm not saying I'm perfect yet, but just having like a schedule and just exercising and like constantly reading and stimulating my brain in other ways. Like reading has helped a lot. Like instead of watching, like I don't go on TikTok, for example. I don't watch short form videos.
Nah, man,
If
yeah.
I'm to watch content, it's always long form because I don't want to train my brain into being in this kind of dopamine fucking feedback loop.
It feels
you know?
like the rest of the world is getting a glimpse of what it feels like to be the ADHD brain with all this short form dopamine surgic content, and I'm like, you finally
Exactly.
realize what it's like to be me. But then, I that's interesting you say about the long form content. Like I'm addicted to if one of my favorite YouTubers. I love video game analysis. That gets the dopamine receptors flaring. Serious guys like Noah Caldwell-Gervais and Matthew Matosis and all them. And if they put out like a 10-hour Dark Souls analysis video, oof, I am gonna be tuned in for them 10 hours. And then that makes me think. I was like, well, clearly I can concentrate to like hyperhuman levels when I hone my mind and put my consciousness into that. So it's really good that you're saying that, because I think we need to dispel this current this myth of ADHD and being some curse and I can't do this, I can't do that, and I struggle with it myself.
Exactly.
But it's
especially if you're trying to force a life that you're not meant to live, you know. And I think a lot of it comes down to fear. Because if you're living a life that's just clearly not made for your brain type, and then of course you're going to feel like, oh, maybe I should take a certain supplement, let's say, to change my brain chemistry. And I don't know.
That's where we get drawn to psychedelics as ADHD people, and drugs in general. There's a massive link, isn't there? Between
that's why microdosing is good for that. I would imagine.
Yeah.
So, just for that neuroplasticity, because like with ADHD, if you were to, I guess, simplify it, a lot of it is like we just have a lower dopamine baseline. That's why it's like we tend to be more risk takers, you know. So that's why like traveling is good and just changing your environment and just trying to find. That's why, again, like if you have ADHD, for example, and you're like addicted to short form TikTok videos, and oh man, I feel for you because I've gone down that rabbit hole, but it's just destroying your brain.
It's a strange world we live in terms of content distribution. Because when I got into YouTube, I thought, right, okay, what do I really love? on this site. It's the long form, in depth stuff. So I want to make that sort of stuff. And unfortunately, I do YouTube as a job as well. It's like it's now crystallized as a job at the time where the rest of the world is like, no, we don't want the long form content anymore. Like, give me 5 seconds on a TikTok, and I fall into it as well. I love a good Instagram meme. To be fair, I don't like TikTok now.
Of course, yeah.
There is great short form content, but it's very easy to fall into the brain rotting short form content because it oftentimes drowns out your algorithm, doesn't it? It's really quite tricky.
Yeah, well, it's the loop, isn't it? Like, because with short form, I'll still watch it on YouTube because I don't want to, I got to support the platform that I'm on instead of TikTok. But like, I will watch short form, but only if it shows up on my home screen. But I'll never once I click on a short form, I'll never scroll down and just allow the algorithm to choose whatever video is next.
That's a healthy relationship.
It's only if it's like really, if it's really like, oh fuck, that looks cool, yeah, I'll click on it and then go back.
Yeah.
I'll never allow the algorithm just to randomly choose what I watch next.
No, I've been online for so long that I understand my relationship with it and how to have that healthy relationship. But I feel sorry for the children of today, the youth of today. They sprung into a very weird time on the internet. Whereas I imagine you when did you actually make your YouTube channel? Did you make it before you made your videos, or did you make it the day you created that video?
Yeah, just basically the day I created that video, 2015, I think.
But were you watching YouTube videos before? When did you first started watching YouTube videos?
Oh right, pretty much at the beginning, man.
Same.
Like, even with Shane Dawson and Smosh and Ray William Johnson.
Oh, he was the boy. He was like the king of YouTube.
yeah.
He really was. He was like the first. He was the first sort of he was the first sort of influencer type person that emerged, because a lot of these figures in YouTube today, they're like an offshoot of him, aren't they? And he really opened the floodgates
in a lot of ways.
It's really very fascinating.
So I've been but I have been with YouTube since literally it began. Like all the classic memes, like Chocolate Rain.
Oh yeah.
That Star Wars kid with the thingy. And
he's a legend.
And the dramatic golfer.
Yeah.
Dun, dun.
I forgot about that one. That's iconic.
Yeah, like all that shit. Yeah, dude.
It was wholesome.
YouTube's like always been the best. I've been a big proponent of YouTube since it began, and still, I know a lot of people give it shit, but let's be fair, it's still by far the best social media platform.
Oh, 100%, yeah, and it's better than TV. Absolutely. I can't believe it sometimes when I've seen my mates or my families and like they're watching TV and then there's like a 5-minute ad break of just being brainwashed with hyper-capitalism. I was like, that's actually crazy. That for a lot of my life I was indoctrinated by that, and so I'm not bothered if there's a 30-second ad on YouTube nowadays. I think I'm so grateful for it.
Nah. I've been on YouTube Premium since it was YouTube Red.
Yeah, oh yeah.
No, I couldn't go with ads. That's why some people complain, even like, oh, there's so many ad breaks. It's like, dude, I bet you're probably subscribed on Disney, Netflix. Like, why not just give YouTube your money?
Oh, lad, I'm so glad you said that
more often.
I'm so glad you said that, because I actually say it in my comments to people. I just like, right, mate. I'm not YouTube's like spokesperson here, but it's pretty good deal. It's pretty good deal.
Yeah,
and
I'll be a YouTube spokesperson. It's absolutely worse. I didn't get paid for
the greatest thing
all.
ever.
I wish.
Yeah.
If I did get paid for it, then I would be advertising it.
Oh, absolutely.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
No, but it's worth it, man. Honestly, like no ads. Think about all the time that you save, and then that compounds.
I know,
throughout your life.
Yeah.
I probably saved hours and hours, maybe even hundreds of hours, just on not watching ads. You know, and you can play videos in the background. That's a really cool. So you can play a podcast, lock your phone, and it will still play. Because that doesn't do it on the free version.
Yeah. No, that was the selling point for me. I was like, oh my god, finally, this is something I've dreamed of. Just to segue into something else that we were talking about before, I was telling you I was going to Japan. How did you find Japan when you went over, and how long did you go for?
Oh, dude, Japan's awesome. I went there. The first time I went there was about maybe 5 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. And then the second time I went there was like 10 days. But dude, Japan, oh mate, if you want to talk about a futuristic time warp into a completely different culture, oh my god, dude, Japan's yeah, Japan's the best. I would go there. It's just like a bit pricey. Otherwise, I'd be going there like every month probably.
Yeah.
But nah, it's amazing, man, because they've been really good at keeping the culture closed. Because I think even for a couple hundred years, Japan didn't allow any outsiders come in, and they're very notorious for not allowing other cultures to come in and kind of poison their well, so to speak.
I've always had
And
an
you could say
affinity.
that is racist, and it is in a lot of ways, but it's also the reason why they're able to have such a unique culture, you know.
I said that as well.
But just with tech, yeah.
There's a lot
And
more
dude,
nuance to
even
it.
if you think about, even if you think about technology, it's like they have the monopoly on all cameras, like Sony, Canon, Nikon, video games like Nintendo,
Yeah.
which spawned because I think Sony used to make a CD-ROM for Nintendo, and then they went off and did their own thing with PlayStation,
You know
which is
your
still
history, don't you?
Japanese anyway. So, nah, it's awesome, and even the fashion and stuff is everyone just dresses really nice.
They got
You
serious
know,
strip
and then
game.
you can't, yeah, I go out here in this, my local supermarket, and there's half the people just dressed as slobs. You notice that more when you go to Japan. I'm like, man, everyone dresses like so cool. Like they're like models. They just got like style, you know.
That must be
And
the
just
same
like
with the
that kind
UK.
and that's yeah, and they kind of have like that cyberpunk kind of feel to it. You got to do like oh yeah, if you're into psychedelics, you should do the Team Lab light show. So it's like this insane psychedelic
Was that the one in your video?
technology light show. Yeah, in the weed one.
Oh, I
yeah,
love that. That
like
was a really
somewhere.
great video, mate. Yeah, I loved that.
That video was actually based on me wanting to do that trip report, but I'm like, but there's no story here. So what can I do around it? So that was just an excuse to make to put it in the weed doco.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
class.
I want to do a trip simulation, but I don't want to just do a trip simulation. I want to do like, make a story, a doco out of it. But what can I do it out of? Oh, weed, and then I'll just chuck it in there somehow.
It's interesting, Japan, because they're quite a trippy culture in a lot of ways. All of their fiction, the media, just the whole history and everything. I'm sure the vibe is quite trippy, but obviously they shun psychedelics and a lot of mind-altering substances, don't they?
They do, but not. It's more cannabis.
Oh, you're saying
They're more against cannabis than they are shrooms for sure. Yeah, because cannabis is associated with laziness, and they're very hardworking.
Oh yeah.
And because especially Asian countries, they're more collectivist in nature, whereas the West is more individualistic. So we're more about whatever feels good for me. That's what's most important. Whereas they're more about no, what's good for the greater good. And obviously, there's pros and cons for both perspectives. But I guess the dark side of being too collectivist is that if your mental health is declining, you're going to ignore that because it's for the greater good. And I think it might be part of why suicide is so high over there. And yeah, Japan and Korea is the same. They're declining in population, man. It's not just because of suicide as well. That's just one factor, but no one's having kids.
Yeah, we're hearing about that all the time, aren't we? I'm massively into Japanese culture, and if you watch any animes, there's a serious common thread between them all, where the young male is frightened of the girl and doesn't know how to talk to the girl, and then there's animes about the hikikomoris who can't leave the houses, and then it's not getting any better. It just seems to get worse, and you just think, what are they going to do to mend that? How is there going to be this next conscious leap for them? It's quite a weird situation.
Yeah, it is interesting. What shocked me was how, I thought Dragon Ball Z was going to be way more popular over there from the Western mind, but it's not as much.
Oh.
Pokemon is the number one most popular thing that you'll see there.
Right, interesting. I can see your
Yeah.
I can see your Dragon Ball in the background as well. Like, is it Dragon Ball?
That's
But I've noticed
It's
you.
actually,
I've noticed
it's more
you.
of a South American thing, apparently.
Yeah,
South America are actually they're more fanatics with Dragon Ball than Japan is.
Yeah, they love
That's a
it. Don't
fact.
they? Yeah, there's
When
synonymous.
Akira Toriyama died, Japan, there wasn't that much in Japan to do with that, but in Argentina they did like this massive mural. Like people would show up. Like, dude, it was insane.
What do
Dragon
you
Ball's
think of
always been like it.
what do you think about Dragon
What do I think
Ball
of what?
that what do you think about Dragon Ball that resonates with South American like sort of Latino people? Do you have any idea?
That's a good question. I think
It's interesting. I've always
I
thought
don't
about
know.
it.
Just well, I know that the South American culture is we're very passionate people,
Hmm.
and it's like with any culture. Because I always look at the polarity of things, I can't help it. But
Yeah.
when I look at like they're super passionate, and it's amazing. Like if you have a best friend who's South American, oh man, you'll make you hug, you like they'll die for you. But if you don't, if they hate you, whew, things get very ugly.
Mm,
You know what I mean? So I think it's part of that passion, and Dragon Ball is like it's so passionate,
it is.
just getting stronger and kind of overcoming evil, and because they've been oppressed throughout their entire history,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, so I'll have to marinate on that a little bit, but
Mm.
every time I go to Chile, I'll see like Dragon Ball banners on houses, on cars. Like when the movie came out, there were billboards everywhere. It's huge there, man. Serious, like super, super fans.
Mm.
So when I went to Japan, I was like, oh,
I think it's
I saw
everywhere.
more Dragon Ball stuff in Mexico than I did in Japan.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's more Pokemon, One Piece for sure,
No, yeah.
and Attack on Titan. They're probably and Naruto as well.
Mm.
Naruto.
Mm. How did you get into anime? Are you quite a big anime fan, or did you just have you just watched a few?
Just Dragon Ball was my gateway drug.
Yeah, yeah. It's
And more, I
unreal.
guess, Pokemon, but more through the games. I watched the first two seasons of Pokemon, but
Yeah.
I was more into the classic Game Boy games.
Well, I know you love
No,
your
I do like animes though. I love like Attack on Titan is sick, but yeah, it's mostly Dragon Ball.
Yeah,
I'm still
yeah.
a Dragon Ball fanboy.
I don't blame you. Me and my mates are just making our way through it right now because when I watched it when I was younger, I'd always catch it on TV, but I wouldn't be able to piece it all together. So now obviously through the luxury of streaming, we can now watch it all. So it's fascinating, especially when he actually passed away. I was inspired to watch it. Every time someone passes away that makes something that I have an affinity to, I'm like, right, what's the best way to respect their energy? It's to consume their gift to the world. So and it's a very
Exactly.
it's very inspiring series. Absolutely, I think it gets a bad rap like, oh, Dragon Ball Z, it's just mostly people fucking throwing shit at each other, man. It's like, nah, there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, I know. Like, because I know the purists will say that, and like, oh, there's animes that have better story arcs. And I agree, and for sure, it's part of nostalgia, but then it's like the emotionality of it. There's just something so iconic. Like, because you can't. I'm sure there are like 50 other animes that are better written, but nothing is iconic, in my
No,
opinion.
no, I
Like
got that.
Super Saiyan is a verb in world culture.
Yeah, I know,
Everyone
right?
knows what a Super Saiyan
Even
is.
my mum
You know
knows
what
what
I
that.
mean?
Yeah, my mum doesn't know what Dragon Ball's about at all, but she knows what it means to go Super Saiyan. And when I
Exactly.
go a bit rad, she's like, "Oh, you're going Super Saiyan again." And I'm like, "Well, it's just permeating the culture." Um, I know you like your video games. What's your favorite video game?
Yeah, true. I don't, not so much. Like, I'm at that stage now where I like to study more about video game culture than I do actually play it
Yeah, I get that.
necessarily. Um, just because I guess that's just now. But now, yeah, probably Resident Evil just comes to mind.
Yeah.
That's the last one that I played like a billion times. Just speed running it on professional, especially Resident Evil 4.
Yeah,
Yeah, Resident Evil 4. Yeah, because it was my favorite game when it first came out, and when the remake came out, I was like, man, this is even better.
Yeah, I know. I was all over that. Yeah, I loved it. A lot of these re-releases and remakes, I don't know, don't have a lot of passion or soul to them.
Yeah.
The remake, it was a nice spin on it, and it was a great way to incorporate sort of the modern sensibilities into it, but without losing the classic feel. It's really awesome. I liked your analogy in that video. Can't remember which video it was, but you're talking about how life is sort of like it's sort of like Dark Souls, where like you keep, as you get through Dark Souls or like the best games, the bosses get harder I can't remember what video that was, but it was a really great analogy because I thought that life is very much like a video game. There's lots. Why do we like video games? Because life is, in a sense, a giant game.
That's true. Well, and even goes back to the old symbology of the dragon protecting the treasure, right? Like the scarier the monster, usually the greater the loot. That's just like Diablo's classic example of that. I love Diablo actually, the old school Diablo games. And what else? I get in terms of like multiplayer competitive games outside of chess, because that's too obvious. But like Gears of War.
Oh, so
Yeah, I don't have an Xbox anymore though, so.
no.
But I might have to get it if they release a new one.
True. I was never. I've played Gears of War, but I always grew up. I always grew up with the Japanese consoles. It was always PlayStation or Nintendo for me, so I missed out on. I missed out on the peak.
Me
era of
too.
that.
It wasn't until Gears of War 1 came out, and that's what actually made me switch, because I was like, oh, am I gonna get I'm gonna get a PS3? Obviously, that's when that generation came out.
Yeah.
And then Gears of War came out, and it just looked so appealing to me, and it was like, game of the year. It was like the first game that was like truly next gen graphics and had a cover system. It was revolutionary, and that's what made me get an Xbox 360, only for that one generation.
Yeah.
And then I went back to PlayStation and Nintendo after that.
That was the only time
dude,
that
that was-
Xbox
yeah.
really. That was the only time in the generation of gaming that I've experienced where I thought, okay, I feel like I did miss out on quite a bit of shit not having a 360.
Yeah, I think the 360 won that particular generation, but then PlayStation took its throne back.
Yeah.
After that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, Gears of War was basically like a direct inspiration of Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
If the viewers don't know this, Resident Evil 4, they kind of accidentally created the third-person shooter genre. They were the first game in history to have that behind-the-shoulder camera view perspective.
This guy knows his shit. It's good to find someone who knows all of the little intricacies of like gaming history. Finally, class.
So yeah, Resident Evil. They basically invented two genres: survival horror, and then when they reinvented the game with Resident Evil 4, third-person shooters. So Last of Us, Gears of War, Dead Space. None of these games would exist.
No.
If it wasn't for the amazing masterpiece, Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, it all goes. Yeah, it was. There's That's one thing I am a bit. I have a bit of a disillusionment with modern gaming. I still play games quite a lot. I don't get as hooked on them as I used to, but I still love gaming culture, and I still love games as an art form as well. And when there's a fun game, fuck me, it's fun. But there's not as many. I don't think there's as many like groundbreaking, innovative. There still are innovative titles, because I don't want people to think I don't think there are, because there are. But when something like Resident Evil 4 comes about, it changes everything, doesn't it? And the only game
I know.
The only game I think that really changed the scene lately was Elden Ring, really, and Dark. The whole Souls series in general was the last like super innovative game series on a cultural level, where it's like, oh shit, like this is getting back to the core of what games are, because there's so much bullshittery in the gaming industry with, I guess, capitalism, late stage capitalism has really fucked over games with EA and live service and all that. And when you get a game like Elden Ring, I think it really captures the essence of what it's all about.
Yeah, well, and especially if you're like a new gaming developer, it's much harder to just take risks like that. And I can understand, like, especially if you're trying to, because you got to make money, it's got to be successful. But yeah, Elden Ring, I've heard a lot of great things. My mate he's been obsessed with it. I never got into it because I try not to get into games that you have to sink like 200 hours into. I think that's why I like Resident Evil, because especially now, because I've mastered it, I can beat the whole campaign in like under 4 hours. It's like on the hardest difficulty. I know every all right, there's going to be two guys coming out of here, got to duck in this second, throw a flashbang, keep this guy, got to kill this guy. I'm a freak at that one.
They're the best sort of games though, where there's a system that you can master, where instead of holding your hand and all this modern hand holding bullshittery. And
there's no checkpoints in the hardest difficulty. But you die, last save point, and to get S plus, you can only save like, I think 10 or 15 times. There's a limited there's a limited number of how many times you can save the game.
It's interesting, like back in the day with games, even 15 years ago or whatever, when it treated the the player with some intelligence. Look at like Elder Scrolls. I mean, my name's channel's Vivec.
Yes.
My name's Vivec, and that's directly inspired by Morrowind, one of my very favourite games. The character in that.
Oh, nice.
And I love that game because there's no map markers in it. You go up and you get a quest and you talk to someone in the village, and they actually literally describe like the environment that you're gonna have to look out for. And there'll be a sign over here on this hill, and might be a little. You'll be able to figure it out because there'll be a bush near it that looks a bit different from the other ones, and it treats you with intelligence. And then you're like, I don't know, fucking hell, boot up Starfield. Not saying Starfield's a bad game or anything, but it's just not my sort of game anymore. It's like, because I'm so conscious of what is going on, I'm literally just following a fucking line to the developer created thing that they want me to see, and there's no consciousness going on, really.
Yeah, there definitely is. Like, because even like the kiddie games back in the day, like I remember I had because I had a Super Nintendo back in the day, and I had Lion King, and that was like the original Dark Souls. No one can beat that game.
No.
Seriously. Like, go search, if you aren't aware of this, go search Lion King on Super Nintendo.
I bet it is.
Fucking, I've never bet it. It's fucking impossible. That's supposed to be a children's game.
That's well funny.
And because like if you lose all your lives, you gotta start all over again.
Yeah, all them games
There's
from
no
the past.
checkpoints.
Yeah, all those games from the past, there was no checkpoints, was there? You go all these NES games like Castlevania, like the very first one. If you were to absolutely smash it, and it'd only take you, I don't know, it maybe only takes an hour on how long to beat if you're really good at the game. But to get good at the game, you have to keep mastering the system, and the game is so fucking like intricate, super hard, that you keep playing it over and over and over again. It's more rewarding. Whereas, yeah, these just like on rail games just don't. They just don't.
Exactly.
They don't do anything for me.
But to go back on the ADHD brain, I think that's why people like us like challenging games, especially.
Yeah, man.
To kind of test that hunter ability
Mm.
and dexterity.
We're
you know?
we're interlinking stuff here. I love it. This is the sign of a good chat. Just continuing on from say art and media and stuff. Have you got any favorite films? Like, are you into it? What's your favorite like trippy film? Does any trippy film come to mind?
I did try. I gave Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. It's interesting that you asked me this. But it was too much. It was too confusing.
Yeah, it's
Like, it was cool, but the whole movie, you're like, dude, what the fuck is going? I love drug segments within movies, but if it's the whole movie just like that, it's too much. You know what I mean?
I guess the point of it
But,
is
okay.
nonsensical, but it's like, yeah, there's not as much attachment to it if
It still has to be some cohesion to it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me think about this, because I think, does it have to be just trippy in general, right? It doesn't have to be like
Can you
necessarily
think
explicitly.
Can you think of a favourite film that has trippy elements, and also what are some of your favourite films? Because I'm fascinated.
Well, there's a few. I know this is stereotypical, but The Matrix.
Oh,
I feel
yeah,
like that's
yeah.
like a classic one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
There's that Doctor Strange, the first one.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that still has probably the greatest like DMT stimulation I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I've not seen that film, but I saw that clip and I was taken aback because obviously there's a bit of a meme in culture. It's like, oh, it's fucking cape shit, man. Like, it's got no depth to it. And then I saw that scene, I was like, wait, what are they doing here?
Yeah, it definitely has some depth, that one.
Yeah.
Inception is a good one. There's Waking Life is a good one as well.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like a lucid dreaming type of movie. And in terms of trippy, philosophical, I know it's not trippy or psychedelic, but I don't know, to me, Lord of the Rings, the greatest trilogy of all time, it just brings me back. It's a very deep
They're
symbology.
Perfect.
Whether you're talking about, like, whether even you're coming from, like, let's say, like a Christian background and you can kind of tie it back to the Bible, or even if you're a tripper and you're just tying it to a psychedelic experience. Because I always, even from the very first mushroom experience I had, me and my mates would be like, all right, we're going on a Lord of the Rings journey.
Yeah. Going to Bag End.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of
and when you're having a bad trip, you're like, all right, gonna throw this ring in Mordor.
Yeah, but there is
taking a shit or whatever.
there's a lot of psychological elements though, isn't there? In like almost like Jungian elements in Lord of the Rings, about like the nature of the corruption, like let's say like the ring represents. I mean, how you can interpret it in a lot of ways. It represents like the lust for power. It's like represents sort of like, yeah, separation, ego, or whatever, however you interpret it, and it corrupts you, and it disconnects you and turns you into this dishevelled, Gollum-looking bastard. And then, yeah, there's lots of trippy. I think to be fair, say like, oh, what's a trippy film? Like, a lot of the deepest art is trippy, because in trips you get a deep connection with the intricacy of life and the mind and the consciousness, and the deepest art taps you into that, I think.
Exactly. I think it depends on your perspective and the foundation of your mind, because you can look at something as surface level as Seinfeld, but if you had the depth for it, you could look at it as incredibly deep. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's the movie in general. It just depends on how you think about it. But there obviously there are some movies that kind of tackle, at least explicitly, deeper symbology and things like this.
Yeah, people like to put them on tiers, don't they? Oh, this art's deeper than this art, and I'm so much better because I watched like art house kino or whatever. But it's just, but no, there's depth. There's depth everywhere. There's depth in everything. We shouldn't shun. There's depth in like fucking Teletubbies and stuff. Like just really
exactly.
Basic, really
so
basic
like in
stuff.
The Simpsons too. You know?
Yeah. Simpsons very clever, super clever. It's a shame to see what the Simpsons has become. It's very much a shadow of its former self. It's like a parody of itself.
We don't like to talk about that.
No, I know, right? I forgot.
In my timeline, Simpsons stopped it after season 10.
Yeah, me
that's
too.
All I have.
That's funny you said that, because that's hilarious. So my mate's rewatching. He's just going through all of the Simpsons at the minute from the beginning, and I just said to him, I was like, "Yeah, mate. See, season 1 to 10 is like absolute gold, and then everything after that is like, whoa, straight down."
Like there are some episodes that have some gems for sure, but season 1 to 10, it's like every episode was
consistent,
just iconic. You know? Yeah, exactly.
Do you like South Park?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna say, I'd be shocked if you didn't.
I was a collector of the DVDs.
Yeah, right.
Collections. I've watched all the commentaries and everything. I think I stopped collecting it because after season 14, when they released that episode 200 with their whole Muhammad thing, and they removed those episodes from the DVD in Australia, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to continue collecting this if they're going to remove like the best episode from that season.
Australia has loads of bizarre censorship laws, doesn't it, on media?
Yeah, we were one of the first countries to ban certain video games, actually.
That was
bring it back to that. Yeah, I think we banned Manhunt.
Oh yeah,
back in the day.
It's funny watching Manhunt. It's like back in the day, I remember when Manhunt came out and everyone was like, "Oh, kids in school, like, you won't believe this game is so fucking extreme, and like it absolutely twists your mind." And all that.
People are going to be killing each other and all that kind of stuff. Exactly.
But this is also interesting, isn't it, though? Because back obviously we can look back at that and like, okay, it's on PS2 and it's very. It's suggestive, but it's very primitive the way it looks. It's not visceral. Whereas like today, you get like Last of Us 2. It's like fucking like stabbing them in the neck, and like they're looking at they're looking at like live leak videos to really get into the detail. And then, but back then though, when Manhunt came out, like nobody had an idea of what video games would look like in the future. So that's like the peak of video games. So what it's depicting is like it's exactly that, isn't it, for that time frame? Really, yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Oh, dude, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why it's so cool. Like, I remember when 3D gaming came out. I'm a little bit old, I guess, and I was like, because I was a Super Nintendo. I wasn't like this first. I wasn't like NES. I'm not that old.
No, you're not James. You're not the younger video game nerd.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not that old, but I'm like just at that generation, like just before like social media came out, but also just when 3D gaming became a thing. So I remember that transition from Super Nintendo to Nintendo 64, and I remember my very first experience of seeing a 3D game for the first time, which was Super Mario 64, and I was like,
oh yeah,
right, that was a psychedelic trip.
Yeah, but
It's like real life, man.
maybe
And
that's
then you
where it
look
all
at it now,
began.
and it looks like shit. It's
Yeah,
so
no,
funny.
yeah. There's a charm to that, the PS1 N64 era, but yeah, it is so the textures are so basic and all that, and it's like quite muddied. But like I say, I'm 26, so I didn't grow up with the 2D era. I was born into the N64 era, but even for me, like seeing it go from these very basic polygons to you go to PS2 and oh shit, Solid Snake literally on PS1 is just like a few pixels, and then now he's got like he actually looks like a human. I think there is a bit of like you said, that was your first sort of like trippy experience, and I do think back on my life and I think my affinity for video games and these weird worlds and art and fantastical stuff sort of was the thing that sowed the seeds towards me actually being interested in mind alteration.
Absolutely, yeah. Because we all have those moments in life where it just something expands your consciousness, and it can be through art or maybe a new piece of technology that you experience, or like traveling for me was like that. Like just seeing like a new country for the first time, like whoa, these people like have different belief systems and they talk a completely different language.
Yeah.
And then you go back, kind of like the hero's journey, returning back to the ordinary world, and then you return back to your country, and it's like, oh, you see the contrast of
Yeah.
how people think. You come back with an expanded awareness. Watching Dragon Ball was like that for me
Yeah.
too, even because I remember seeing Goku go Super Saiyan for the very first time. I was like,
It's
"Wow."
life changing.
Yeah, dude.
Even stronger.
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
And
It's
and then mushrooms came along and fucking what?
it's getting pretty
the
real.
fuck is this? And these are just like mushrooms growing from the ground, man. Like, what the fuck? What does this mean?
Like
And that brought-
you've
that
probably
kind of
been
took
asked
me on that
this.
journey.
You've probably been asked this 9 million times, but for the sake of the audience, this now who doesn't know, like what actually got you into psychedelics?
It was my very first psychedelic experience outside of cannabis, I guess, but I don't know. You can kind of argue it like it is, but it isn't. I've had some trippy experiences, but compared to psychedelics, it's just orders of magnitude, like really life altering for me. But I did have an acid experience, which kind of opened my mind, but it wasn't until I had my first mushroom trip with my friend. And it was so random. I didn't know. We were just taking these things like, oh, let's just try these mushies and have fun. One of my mates picked it from like a front yard, and he gave me, it was like in a box of like these dried mushrooms, and we like ate it with these Snickers chocolate bars. And dude, that was like, because that was the first time I kind of like really hallucinated in a sense, like seeing like, the vibrant colors, but it wasn't just the visuals. It was like the first time that I tapped into this transcendent quality of like, I think my first insight was something to do with like, there is no time. There's like, or time, there's something, I don't know, I couldn't explain it in that moment, but there was something that I was tapping into that just felt like, what the fuck? Like like nature is like alive and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And then we smoked a joint. It was Terrence McKenna. Then I smoked a bomber, and whoa! Like really like lifted the experience to a whole other level, and we're at a quarry looking at this cliff, and then we're seeing like these ancient structures just kind of manifest and changing colors to greens and purples. But then it went nighttime, and then we went inside the car because we drove there, and then that changed. It was like a kind of heaven and hell kind of experience.
Yeah.
That transition
Yeah.
experience that you have. So like we were like outside, it was sunny, it was daytime, there was a lake, a cliff, trees everywhere. It was beautiful. It was open space. And then we're inside a car at nighttime, parked in front of someone else's house. So then the paranoia set in. And this is when I was like a really heavy metal head. So I'm like, yeah, let's just play some metal. It's just like a habit. And it was like, and it was like, oh, what the fuck? It was too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that kind of,
you're very receptive. You don't realize how receptive you are to the energies around you until you
it's
to have a
super
psychedelic
sensitive.
experience. Yeah, there's been often times where I've been on a psychedelic trip, and I think I love all sort of music. I am big into metal, massively. But sometimes I have just been on a psychedelic trip, and I was like, right, should I just put like symphonic black metal on and see how I feel? And sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. But yeah,
Yeah,
so it's a tricky one. I oftentimes when I listen, when I'm on psychedelics, the go-to music has got to be sort of ambient, relaxing, maybe even just psytrance or anything that I feel that complements the experience. Um, yeah,
yeah, for sure. Like nowadays, I'll just stick with the more soundtracks or
yeah,
kind of my shaman. I guess have my like shamanic hippie playlist.
mm,
So it's a lot of like yeah, ambient stuff or like kind of traditional medicine songs from South America, that
mm,
kind of stuff. Because it kind of brings me back to these shamanic ceremonies and that I've had in South America.
mm,
But with that, yeah, with I guess with that first trip, it kind of showed me the heaven and hell polarity of how great and how ugly things can get.
yeah,
And I think at that stage, after I played the metal and I was enclosed, and then I started kind of losing my mind a little bit in terms of like just not being able to understand English. And then I thought, oh no, maybe these mushrooms that we ate were poisonous. Am I dying? Like, the classic
mhm,
experience that I'm sure many people have had. And this was like, of course, like pre any psychedelic knowledge. I had no idea about any of this stuff.
mm,
But, we can talk about that experience, but it was really the after effect that it had on me that I
mm,
found very interesting, of just being more attracted to nature, because I was like kind of just in my video game bubble. I wanted to stay home. I didn't really give a shit. And this one kind of opened my eyes. It gave me, I guess more empathy, but I didn't really. It was surprising. It was like all these surprising side effects that I didn't expect.
mm,
Like just being a little bit more receptive and sensitive to other human beings around me, to nature, and just getting me more interested and open-minded
yeah.
with these things. Yeah.
We've had a very similar trajectory. This is exactly why I've been following your content for so long. Because as we all know, sometimes you drop off YouTubers, but I've always really been intrinsically linked with your journey, because you describe stuff like what you've said, where before you had this radical consciousness expanding experience. I was the same. As I could literally just stay inside and play video games. I was a super introverted and bit of a hermit, and then when I started getting into psychedelics, and then with that came, okay, I'm starting to tap into this spirituality business. I was like, okay, now I'm more at home, sitting on top of a mountain and just looking over the earth, and that gives me the real sense of depth that maybe I was searching for in my room, but that's actually out there. And with that, I became more extroverted, and that allowed me to articulate myself more. And that's one of the greatest positives of psychedelics, is literally breaking down them barriers that were locking you into this limited existence. That's probably my favorite thing about them.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll have like these different stages of the journey, because sometimes what I learned for myself anyway throughout this psychedelic journey was that I got to the point where I was dissolving too many boundaries, and then you get to the point like you go through the extremes and like, oh no, actually sometimes I need to build structure, sometimes I need to build boundaries, sometimes I need to build a healthy version of an ego.
Yes.
Because if it's too free and too much unity, then it's just chaos, because we're human beings. We navigate through this social matrix, and sometimes we need rules, but you just got to do it in a smart way, where you build like now, like I need routine. Like usually I for the longest, for many years with this YouTube channel, I just kind of did it like, oh, whenever I feel like it. Like I'll work every day, but I didn't have a set time. Now it's like I treat it like I'm going into an office, like a 9 to 5 job. As much as I used to hate the concept of 9 to 5, but there is a structure, and you see it with some people. Like when they don't have a job and they don't have a purpose, then everything in life kind of falls apart. So it's good to have some sort of a schedule. You know what I mean?
Especially for
Even
our
if it's like
scatterbrains.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it's something like sports, like once a week going to jiu-jitsu or playing some tennis or going to the gym at a certain time every day or whatever it is. I think it's important for humans to have some sort of a structure.
Yep.
Otherwise, things fall into chaos and You know, especially if you like you have the ego of like, oh no, but I can keep my shit together. But it's like, no, you got to treat yourself as a child sometimes. We still have human nature, and we have these desires to act on impulses and chase pleasure and all that kind of stuff, and that's cool. That's why you gotta, yeah. For me anyway, that's why I try to structure my life in a way
Gotta slow the fuck
that I
down
don't
at some
fall
point.
off the path. Hey?
You gotta slow the fuck down at some point and put yourself back in gear, or else you're gonna crash.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem
And
with the psychonautic community. And I can tell you're very much on the same page about this. And it's some people just do lose themselves in these astral planes, these heightened states, and then the sort of that becomes the thing they're striving for all the time. They're breaking down too many barriers, as you say, and then they get back to this mundane reality, which this is the least fucking mundane thing ever right now. But when you do psychedelics all the time, it can twist you, can't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, we go through seasons in life, right? Because there may be a time that sometimes I do get to a point where, like, okay, maybe my ego is getting a little bit too hard and too structuralized. So then maybe I need to have one ceremony, kind of loosey goosey, you know, to stimulate that neuroplasticity and then go back. But it depends, man. Yeah, it depends on the season, because, like, you know, sometimes winter comes and then you gotta like rest and hibernate for a while, and then summer comes and you gotta just go out and take action. Yes. But there is definitely a danger, like you alluded to, of using or escaping into these altered states, but doing it from a place of escapism. You know, especially if maybe your life isn't the way that you want it to be. That's why it's important to develop skills and try to be useful in society, and just do something to level up your character in this reality. You know, and psychedelics can definitely be one part of that, but it's not everything. No. It's like playing a video game, though, just to bring back to the RPG analogy. It would be like putting all your attribution points into just one particular skill. Sometimes you got to like balance it out. It doesn't have to be 50-50 balance of everything, because obviously there are some strengths that you should capitalize on, but sometimes you got to like, oh, okay, maybe I'm really low on points in this area in life. Like finances for me is always, for a long time, has been a big problem. Like, I hate thinking about business and finances and taxes and all that kind of stuff. So then it's like, okay, I'm weak in this area, so let me dive into this. And so I'll sign up to a course or read a few books on this subject, just to kind of increase my knowledge and experience with these things. Yeah. And that's actually one of the best ways to boost your creative brain, is to study things that you're not necessarily interested in. Yeah. Because if creativity is just connecting dots from all these different areas, if you're just studying the same thing over and over and over and over again, like, yeah, you'll have some progression, but it'll be very slow and linear. Whereas sometimes it's like, if you just go left field, like, all right, I'm going to study some 19th century ancient mathematics, and then I'm going to study mechanical engineering here, and then I'm going to study women's fashion. I don't know, whatever the fuck, just something so random and left field. Yeah. But it actually builds more connections in your brain. And then you might think that you're studying something that's completely nothing to do with your life, but you never know, man. Sometimes a situation could arise and you're like, oh, this kind of applies to this course that I studied years ago, you know? Yeah, you start linking, linking the dots. Exactly. I feel like a lot of people in the psychonautic scene, and I noticed in your content, again, very similar trajectory, is me and you had all these crazy mystical experiences in psychedelics, transcendental awakenings, and you can get very lost in it, and then it's like you're obsessed with the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like self-actualizing, when all the lower stages require your attention, because realistically you've got to fit all the puzzle pieces together to make it a holistic piece of art, and that's what your life is, I guess. You've got to put energy, like, you got to put the skill points into the areas that need filling in, or else you won't be able to overcome the challenges that life presents you. Yeah, exactly. Especially, like, you know, and your mind is housed by this body, so the stronger your body is, the stronger your mind's going to be as well. So you know, lift some weights, mate. Go do some exercise. as well.
What's
As
your
well as yeah.
So what's your relationship with psychedelics right now? Have you got the message and hang up the phone, or have you just, like you said, you alluded to there, where it's like, yeah, when the ego sort of starts to re-solidify, maybe it's time to shed the barriers, but not get lost in it again.
Yeah, or I definitely did have like especially after my Dark Night of the Soul, I did go through a period of time where I was like, oh man, maybe psychedelics are bad. Maybe there is a sort of
I remember
dark
that.
demonic portal. Like, oh yeah, I wasn't really.
I remember
didn't
that.
want to think this way. I'm like, no, please don't let this be the case.
Yeah.
But I had to allow myself to go down that rabbit hole. So then now it's like, I have some grounding in that, but. Yeah, I even went through like a little bit of a Christian phase as well. But that was like kind of, I guess it was in a way, it was kind of like shadow work in a sense, because I was so against it for myself. Like I would get triggered with these religious kind of ideas. And I'm like, why am I getting so pissed off with this stuff? So then I kind of dived deep into it, went through it the other side and kind of took out the good stuff and then left the stuff that I don't personally resonate with. But yeah, in terms of like hanging up the phone and stuff, I definitely understand why people would say that, but it just depends, man. Like I'll still go back, you know.
Me too.
It's not like I'm done with it.
No.
I'll maybe with more microdosing, or even now I'm kind of feeling called. Like I'd love to have like a cactus trip. I had one the other month. We did like this Australian wilderness walk. Where we'd do like a San Pedro ceremony and then just hike up a mountain, and it was beautiful. I like doing that every now and again because it kind of just reminds me of that mystery of life. It kind of re-sparks that. Not that I don't rely on these experiences, or like I never go into it now that like I need to have this or to learn or to heal, like kind of from this narcissistic point of view. But it's more like just like a ceremony, I guess, like going to church every week. You know, you don't have to go to church because you're down on your knees.
Yeah, you don't go to church every day, do you?
For God to help you. Yeah, you know what I mean? But you go there just for every once in a while, just to kind of, yeah, I guess re-spark that spiritual connection in a sense. And I like doing it with the community, or yeah, just every once in a while. It's like a seasonal thing, right? I'll do it if I feel that pull. But then also when maybe if I do it too often, it's like, okay, I need to take a break from this stuff. Like I'm not excited for it. Like, for example, if you were to offer me DMT right now, I'd be like, ooh. I mean, maybe I would probably still do it, but I don't know, man. That's it's not something that I would just take willy-nilly, you know?
It's very interesting you say that, because I came across a DMT pen through some means, and
oh yeah,
yeah, I was just curious because it was the one psychedelic that I was always fascinated with, that I never sought out. It just sort of found me. I've done it a few times. Just seemed to happen at the weirdest time, as it usually does. I go to a lot of festivals and just somehow someone come around the corner like, "Hey, DMT pen," and I'll be like, okay, this is the universe saying this is a good time to do it, because I'm in that mode where it's like, oh, you're gonna have a good experience. So then I was given the opportunity to really dive into it, and I was experimenting with it for a bit. Just I was actually more microdosing it every other day, and just having that transcendental experience, that because I don't use psychedelics much anymore really, so it was cool to get into it. But then the one night I was like, okay, I'm ready to meet the machine elves, and I was like, let's fucking go. Went straight to the pen, and as you can imagine, I went to the pen and it just fell apart. The liquid came out, and I was like, okay, that's not...
Really?
Yeah, and I was like,
wow,
that was not just a coincidence. That's like the universe saying you weren't ready for it in that moment. Your ego was like, right, yeah, the machine elves, that's what are they fucking really saying, like. And I went to it, and it just fell apart. And it's funny because my mate told me that the pens, it was, oh, it's really fragile. He's like, oh, mine fell apart the other day. So I already knew that the pens were fragile, so I literally picked it up out the box. I could not have been more gentle with it. I just opened it as gently as I could, thinking, oh, there's a possibility it might break. And then just in that moment, that moment where I had the thought where I was like, oh, this is when I'm going to blast off, it broke. So it was just basically telling me like, okay, look, Vivec, you've had a lot of psychedelic experience over the past 10 years. You've probably realised more about reality than a lot of humans. Use that knowledge and start working on the other lower ends of your life that lack your energy. And that's the message that I took from it, and that's why I'm sort of not avoiding psychedelics, like you say. If the right time comes, I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to seek. I don't think I'm going to seek them anymore, because it doesn't align with my core values.
Yeah, exactly. It's a seasonal thing, you know, and then it also depends on the psychedelic. For example, if you were to give me some Pedro powder, I probably would carve out a little bit of a time to do some in the next week.
Do you quite
But
like
if you
San
gave me-
Pedro then? Is it up there? Is it?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Interesting.
I'm making a video on it right now. Actually, I'm just.
Oh, you heard it here first, folks.
Exactly. I'm trying to find a good title, like the psychedelic that you've forgotten about, the OG psychedelic. 'Cause it was mescaline is the first psychedelic that was studied. It's kickstart this whole research thing that we know. For me, it's definitely the one that I resonate with the most, for sure, because it's more in your body. Because I interviewed Mike J, who wrote the book Mescaline something, I forgot. But I interviewed him a few years ago, and he said that with San Pedro, it feels like the experience is coming from the inside out, whereas tryptamines like DMT and mushrooms feels like it's like coming from the outside in.
Yeah,
and I like that. Yeah, I resonated with that explanation, because it definitely, especially because San Pedro is more of a, it's a phenethylamine. That's where Alexander Shulgin, he discovered and synthesized MDMA through his mescaline experiences. So it's more grounded, more in your body, whereas the tryptamines are like way more like, all right, got to really prepare for this one, especially the high doses. Mushrooms are no joke.
There's some there's like a cosmic element to those sort of psychedelics I've found, whereas the phenethylamines, there is that grounded, centered aspect, like it's coming from within. The other psychedelics, feels like you're tapping into some Lovecraftian entity's like realm or something.
Yeah, sometimes. Have you had experience with San Pedro?
I've not. I've never taken mescaline. I've always been fascinated by it. I just obviously have heard about it for a very long time. It's It's permeated a lot of culture. And so I have Fear and Love in Las Vegas. He obviously takes mescaline. He's in the bathtub going crazy, isn't he?
He does.
That's the first time I heard about it. I think the only reason I was.
But he also took all these other drugs under the sun.
Yeah. Context is very important, folks. But it's just one of them psychedelics where I'm actually quite sensitive to ingesting psychedelics. So if I ever have to like eat them, it can play with my trip quite a bit. Like I do love mushrooms. I like to have mushrooms where I like to have them in the little capsules. It just allows me to digest them better. But I've always preferred psychedelics like LSD or DMT, where I can smoke them, and I just like that route of administration. But I wouldn't say no to trying mescaline. I've read too many trip reports.
That's true.
Too many trip reports that are fascinating.
It's true, because it does, like what you're saying, it does tend to trigger more nausea, and there's a bit of a heavier body load. According to my research, that's what people say about mescaline. I think that's the case for most people. But for me, I found the kind of opposite. Like I have thrown up once on mescaline, but I've also feel the heavy body load on ayahuasca and mushrooms even more so, especially the higher doses. So
sometimes that's part of the package, though, isn't it? The purging element of the psychedelic experience, and actually when you give into it, and
it's your diet, man, because diet doesn't get talked too much about, especially like in the Western psychedelic culture. Whereas like, for example, in South America, the dieta is like a huge part of the whole thing. Like they have like do's and don'ts, like 24 hours before you drink San Pedro, don't eat this, avoid this. This is okay, but you know what I mean? Like, even like in ayahuasca, it's something like, don't eat ripe bananas, don't eat ripe avocados, like very specific foods that you should avoid. And whether this has any scientific reasoning for it, I guess, to me, it doesn't matter too much, only because I think it's more of the mindset going into it, like kind of treating the ceremony the pre-ceremony as if it's the actual ceremony, like the beginning
too.
of it, you know,
Yeah, I get that.
kind of showing it that, all right, I'm going to come into it with respect and kind of going through this sacramental approach to it where, okay, I'm going to sacrifice a few things. And so I think that, yeah, your diet definitely plays a huge part going into, especially eating plant matter like San Pedro or peyote or ayahuasca, which can be even mushrooms, you know, can be very heavy on the stomach sometimes, especially if you go into the high doses. For me anyway, because I've thrown up a couple times from mushrooms. The purging experience.
Yeah. I actually got into healthy eating through psychedelics through a mushroom trip. I've always eaten like relatively healthy. I was never a sugar fiend as a youth, but obviously I didn't eat as healthily as I could do. And then it was 2 trips actually. One a mushroom trip I had, and then just some insight I had the day after when I was just integrating all the experience. I was like, why wouldn't I treat my body as some form of biological machine that needs good fuel in it? Like, I'm not going to put shitty parts into my PC if I want it to run well, am I? So that was an insight. And
I like that analogy.
It's good. I love the mechanical analogies. And then I had this LSD trip where me and an ex of mine, we went out. We were just taking LSD recreationally, but as you do take it recreationally, there's always going to be some philosophical element, regardless of how much fun you want to have. So we went and got a burrito, and I was absolutely tripping fucking balls looking at this burrito, and then I bit into it, and I just was so hypersensitive to all the shit that was in it. It was like a shitty burrito, not like a healthy burrito, super processed and everything. And that was the moment I was like, I could not go back from that moment where I was so cognizant of how fucked up fast food and just most food really is, and that you need to have, it's another area of life that you need to put consciousness into, health, because if you approach health in an unconscious fashion, then you're gonna pay the price.
Oh yeah, dude, especially if you're eating things that are kind of harsh for the digestive system, which affects your mental processes. And yeah, I've had those experiences that you just talked about, like when you eat something like really heavy and you're tripping and you're just like, what the fuck is this? And then sometimes you'll have something like, I don't know, some pineapple or some fruit, and it's like it's alive and full of enzymes, and you're like, oh yes, it's like an orgasm, you know?
Yeah.
So I've had those, yeah, especially through San Pedro. I remember having a fruit salad, and oh my god,
I bet that hit different.
Yeah, absolutely. They say also with chocolate, if you have dark chocolate, they have like cacao tea that kind of kicks it up again.
Yeah, dark chocolate.
Something to do with the tryptophans in the chocolate.
I just wanted to ask you, because we had an interesting conversation before we got on. We were talking about dissociatives. What's your experience with dissociative substances? Have you tried ketamine?
So like ketamine, yeah, I've tried ketamine. I've tried it a few times. Definitely, in terms of like a recreational, fun, like party drug, definitely my favorite. I prefer that over like coke and all these kind of
definitely
amphetamines and all the other. Yeah, in terms of the white powder, it's pretty damn fun.
Yeah, it's one of the best white powders, to be fair.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the first time I had ketamine was probably like not even that long, maybe 5 years ago or something. I had actually no, it was before that. Anyways, I guess it's irrelevant, but it's just fun. It kind of feels like getting drunk, but without the heavy body load of alcohol, and you kind of feel perfectly fine and normal.
Yeah.
30 to an hour later, and it doesn't give me, at least for me, it doesn't. The way it was sold to me is like, dude, you have this thing, you won't get any come down whatsoever. You're gonna wake up tomorrow like you didn't even do any drugs, and that was kind of very appealing to me. I don't know if that's actually true for the most part, or
I get
lie.
that,
would you say that?
Yeah,
you understand that?
Being a British resident, I definitely know a lot about the old spaghetti mine, and I fully am on board with that. I fully am on board with that though. Like I've never been, like, obviously I drank when I was younger, and like I still enjoy. Yeah, well, I did a fucking can of Asahi right there. I didn't even realise. But yeah, I'll just have a healthy relationship with it. Like I'll get tipsy, or I'll just enjoy the drink. But something about ket is just, you can be as fucked as possible and literally break reality, and reality's glitching out. I'm like no clipping into walls, and I've had some crazy experiences on dissociatives that trump a lot of my psychedelic experiences, because there's a weird distinctions between them.
I've heard that. A lot of like near-death experience type of trips that I've heard, right? Like it can be very, especially, is this through the K-hole or even just before reaching to that stage?
Honestly, I feel like I've got to a point where I've gone like beyond the K-hole, where there's like some new realm that people aren't talking about. Because like the psychedelic, we know how deep these mind-altering substances go. People are always, I'm reading so many trip reports, and I'm like, I'm very, very open-minded when it comes to the effects that these mind-altering devices can have, and I know a lot of my commenters are like, this report was fake because I took LSD and never experienced that, and it's like, nah mate, you don't realise how deep the rabbit hole goes. And I think the rabbit hole the rabbit hole with dissociatives goes deeper than I think people understand. That I've had K-holes, and they're very and super, they can be really beautiful, super relaxing, or they can be, if you don't anticipate them, they can be quite shocking. But then I've had experiences on dissociatives where and it actually gives me chills. It's the first time of my life when I was like, oh god, this is it, this is what being trapped in like an eternal like realm of insanity is like, where I felt like I broke my brain, and I was like, oh right, I've given myself brain damage, or I've broken consciousness. Where I remember I was playing Final Fantasy, and the game just stopped. I was just playing it on my controller, and I was like, oh, the game's glitched out, surely this makes logical sense. And then I'd look around my room, and then things in my room would pop in and out of existence. Like it was almost like the brain couldn't process that part of the visual stimuli that was corresponding to that part of the brain. So I can't even explain it. It was just crazy. It was just like it was just glitching in and out. And then I felt like what it must be. It felt like I was in a Bethesda game day one, where there's all them glitches where like I'd touch my phone and the phone flies up in the air and stuff like that. It was like breaking.
What?
Yeah, it was like breaking.
Holy shit!
It was crazy. I talked about it with Tripwhip the other week, and it fried his brain as well, because it fried my brain, because I was like, I cannot find anyone online who's experienced this, but obviously there will be people who've experienced it, but I've not found anyone who's articulated, and it's very, very bizarre, where I was like no clipping through stuff, like no clipping through my door.
What?
Yeah, it was really, really weird, and that's when I was like, fuck me, these dissociatives are weirder than we think, because everyone thinks, oh, you get a bit kitty, you're a bit wonky, and like go into this hole, and it's like, it goes a lot deeper than that. It's really quite bizarre.
Yeah, I've heard some crazy stories like that when it comes to dissociatives, because I've never gone past that, like that first level of just, because I've had a few experiences, and all my experiences have been like, I just feel silly, like your inhibitions get let go, and you're just able to, I guess, bring out the silly goose.
Oh, I love this.
Just be retarded for a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind
Let's
of
get
thing.
retarded
And be okay with it. Yeah, exactly.
No, they're fascinating beast. Very interesting. All these classes of.
And nitrous oxide, is that a dissociative as well?
Yes, it is a dissociative.
Okay.
very, very different. They're all like some people ask like psychedelics. Oh, what? I love 2CB, and people say that's probably my favourite psychedelic of all time, because it just works every single time. I just know what I'm getting.
Yes, that's synthetic mescaline.
Is it actually? I didn't know that.
Pretty much.
So I'm gonna fucking like mescaline quite a fair bit then. 2CB, I just know what I'm getting out of it. I know what it's like it's the one psychedelic. It's the perfect recreational psychedelic, because I can sort of control it in a sense. Obviously, sometimes things will happen energetic.
Interesting.
It's perfect.
I feel like that with that. I feel like that with acid.
Oh, really?
I can control it more.
I can't control acid.
at least compared to, just in comparison, of course, like compared to mushrooms and ayahuasca and all these other ones, I definitely feel like I can control acid much more.
Interesting, yeah.
I feel like mushrooms kind of like, it takes me on a ride, whereas with acid, I take it on a ride, if that makes sense. This is only on the one tab, though. Let's be clear. I'm not talking about the 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs or whatever. Yeah. I'm just talking about just the one standard dose. I feel like I'm the captain now. Cool. I have control, and plus that attitude. It's not
Master
like
of reality.
It's not like an ego thing. Like I am the but. No, with acid, it does.
It's
for
like,
me, it feels like that.
It's like playing a game,
with
isn't
mushrooms,
it?
It's
Mastering
like,
Dark Souls.
yes, sir, please don't hurt me.
Yeah.
Acid, it's like, I got this.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Like I've gone through like the streets of South American cities. Not that I recommend that to anyone.
Oh yeah, don't.
I've been through some
This man knows what to do, though.
great. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, it's interesting. But 2CB I've been trying to get since high school because I've
Have
heard
you?
wonderful things.
It's everywhere
So,
over here, you know. It's very
so of
super
course,
popular. Super popular.
if there's anyone in Melbourne who can. No, I'm joking. Of course, this is a joke.
Don't listen
No,
to us,
seriously.
man.
No, I've been trying to get it my whole life, man. I wanted to. I've always been curious with 2CB.
Oh, she'll find you at some point. I'm telling you now, mate. Come to UK one day. Honestly, it's like you got this. It's synonymous with raving culture, synonymous with festivals.
Really?
Yeah, it's because I think.
Are you close to London by any chance?
I'm not actually. I'm up
Far away.
I'm up north.
How many hours drive?
I'm in Farmerville. Quite a long 6 hours drive from London. We're in the Nether Realm up here. I'm in the northwest. I'm like one county away from Scotland is closer to me than London. So.
All right.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
But
Groundskeeper Willie.
Let's go crazy.
I'm Scots.
You can find it. Honestly, it's all these. You go to like drum and bass, big music in the UK, and it's synonymous. As 2CB is like it's synonymous with it now. Ketamine and 2CB are like the drugs of this era for the current rave scene. They just have a great synergistic effect with each other on a pleasure level, but also on just a dissecting reality level. They have this great relationship. But 2CB is great because it has like the hype, the energy of MDMA, but without the I'm fucking gurning, and it turns you into a bit of like a vegetable. It turns you into like a galaxy brain, but also it's not too intense like other psychedelics. At least for me, I know a lot of my mates hate 2CB, so it is relative. But on a general level, all the people I've spoken to over the years, 2CB is like it's like a light psychedelic. Obviously, if you took loads of it,
interesting.
You're gonna
that's what some people say about mescaline too. Like from most of the reports, again, it's like psychedelic, so it depends on the dose on the individual. Because for some people, San Pedro or peyote can be like, and I've had like waves of that, but. Generally speaking, compared to the tryptamine, it's definitely much more mild, visually speaking, and more heart-centered. So it's kind of like that MDMA, but just way more psychedelic. So yeah, I think because I am a mescaline man, so I wouldn't mind 2CB. Not that I've never done mescaline, like synthetic mescaline by itself. I've only done it in the cactus form, both in peyote and San Pedro. But I've only done it in like a shamanic context. I've never done it like by myself.
No. Have you ever tried 4-ACO-DMT, which people compare to mushrooms? Or apparently it's like a synthetic. Apparently it's synthetic mushrooms, like psilocybin.
No, I haven't.
It's interesting.
No, I haven't. No, when it comes to the research chemicals, I'm not like necessarily completely against them, but maybe there is definitely a bias in me that I'm like, I just prefer to have the original plant version.
Yeah, I get that.
Except for 2CB, just because of the reviews have been so incredibly high. I'm like, that to me sounds appealing. Whereas like the synthetic mushrooms and LSD, I have had one LSD with psych substance for his video. I think that's the only kind of research chemical.
Oh yeah,
I've tried.
That was the first psychedelic I ever tried. Was 1-LSD. I mean, actually, the first hallucinogenic I tried was salvia. I went from cannabis.
Whoa!
I know, right? I went from cannabis to salvia. Salvia in the UK, you could buy it in head shops. Yeah, you can just buy like.
It was legal for a while. Huh?
It was, and you could buy it. I was just smoking. I mean, I just got into weed within a year of getting into weed. I just have it at parties, and it was just like, okay, this is way better than alcohol. And obviously, like you said on that poll of a day you had on your channel, like, how do you start getting into psychedelics? For me, it was just partying and just getting on the sesh, and I was like, okay, this is way better than alcohol, so start getting high. And then my mate was like, oh, do you want to take it up a notch? And I was like, yeah, go on, whatever, because I was quite interested in all these substances. And they was like, okay, I'll give you salvia. And I was like, oh god, I didn't even realize what it was, and I've only ever had it that once. I didn't have like a crazy experience. Well, it was it was crazy for me at the time, but compared to the experiences I've had since then, it was pretty light. But it was like what you said before, where it was the first time I'd tapped into the transcendent, or it was the first time I had like a major perceptual shift of perceiving. It was I felt as if I was 3D, and then my cone of perception like flipped and it went bird's eye view, and I couldn't move, and that was the first time I'd really realised how deep the rabbit hole goes with mind alteration. So that was weird.
Oh, dude, absolutely. Hey, bro, sorry, I'm just gonna go take a leak.
No
I'll be
worries.
back 1 minute.
I'll try and
entertain the audience.
Yeah, I'll try and keep them entertained. I'll juggling metaphysical balls.
Yeah, I'm just like dancing. I'm probably looking like a tweaker. I just need a pee first. Yeah.
No worries, lad.
I'll be back.
Well, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this revolutionary talk. If you've got any questions, everybody, because we'll probably wrap things up in the next 20 minutes. If you've got any questions, please make a note and I will have a look. I've not been reading the chat. Sorry, everybody. I've been absolutely invested in this legendary discussion. Looking like you're saying some good stuff, though. Datura, yes. Very, very weird plant. I love making them Datura trip reports. They're my favourite reports to make, because I feel like there's so many out there things that people experience. You can get a bit more crazy with the visuals, especially using the video game footage, because I've played so many horror games. I can think about what to match it up with. This is interesting. We're talking about classes of substances, weren't we, before, about dissociatives, and then the demon substances have got to be deliriants, haven't they, like datura and diphenhydramine and all that.
Oh, yes. Yes. Bro, those are the ones that I'm quite afraid of.
Oh, yeah, I won't be taking them.
Yeah, you got to... Yeah, because there's a lot of... I don't know, maybe because, like, I'm, like, South American, so I definitely have that superstitious part of my nature. And we've just heard a lot of witchcraft and brujeria and like fucking dark wizards using that shit, And it's completely superstitious, probably nonsense to the reductionist, materialist Westerner, but I don't know. Maybe it's just part of my blood, but that shit scares the shit out of me, bro.
Oh yeah, I was just saying.
I don't want to mess with that.
Just saying to the chat, my favourite reports to cover. I love them. Mystical. I cover the whole spectrum of the psychedelic experience through the reports. But I will admit, I loved creepypastas back in the day, so when I discovered delirium trip reports, I was like, oh my god, it's creepypastas, but people actually see the thing they're going on about, and it's even more fucked. So there's a bit of a twisted curiosity, but I'm curious.
Wow.
Curious to the point to know where I would not take it, and I do I'm again, having an audience, there's always going to be them outliers, isn't there? That's going to be like, hey Vivec, I think I'm going to take Datura this weekend. Like, what do you advise? And I was like, well, I advise you to go and look in the mirror and think about what you just said, because that's really not a good idea.
I think I may have taken it by accident with one of the first ayahuasca brews that I have, because they do mix it in sometimes. They call it Doe, which is one of the Datura variants.
Right.
And that has... And I did have a nightmare trip on one of them, so maybe I have had a Datura experience. I just didn't know it.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
It is intrinsically linked with a lot of cultures, isn't it? I know Native Americans have quite an affinity for Datura, because it really, when you read them reports, it does feel like they've opened up some portal. Obviously, this figurative language, but it really does feel like there's some demonic presence there. I don't know what's really going on, but that's the vibe I get.
Some people put it under their pillow because it helps them sleep. But then I heard, like, one of the ayahuasca participants, he took the Doe plant, he put it under his pillow, and then he ended up having these psychotic, infinite loop nightmares all night.
Oh, fucking hell.
So I don't want to just put negativity out there, because maybe the plant, like, I'm sure there's probably a right way to use it in a proper context where it can be helpful, but I think that the risks probably far outweigh,
that's
the
it.
benefits.
I agree.
In my humble opinion,
you're more likely to go to a nightmare realm than a paradise realm on Datura. You could have bad time, statistically speaking, but you can't devalue the fact that some people are wired up, and also are so super in tune with maybe the process of how you consume it that they will actually get a positive experience by it. And I've covered there's a video I did, like, surprisingly positive datura experiences. It was fascinating to actually read them, but I erred on the side of caution about releasing that video, because I was like, I know what people are like. They'll see that video and it's like, no, datura's okay now, we can do it. And it's like, but thankfully I've realized that people have a lot more nuanced thought than I feared. So yeah, it's very possible. But if I was going to advise anyone to use mind alteration to self-actualize, I'd probably recommend the traditional proven psychedelics, and yeah, just the classics. Sometimes you bite off more than you can chew in this field.
Especially the ones that have a long history of not just like historical use, but scientific, rigorous study. Because sometimes you don't know. Because I remember having like spice when that first came out. I was like, oh, this legal synthetic weed. But then obviously, we all know how
I don't know how that panned out.
how dangerous those ones can be. Yeah, exactly.
That's my worst experience on any substance is spice. I've talked about it quite a few times. I had it at this festival. I thought that just these people were smoking a joint. They looked like hippies as well. They were the most deceiving hippies of all time. I sat down with them and they were just smoking some like K2 spice derivative, and I went on fucking schizoid like quite quickly after that. And that was the closest I've ever experienced to being insane. Like just thinking everyone's gonna like genuinely gonna kill you. Seeing double of people. Guy passes me a bottle of water and the water's green or something. I was like, oh, he's passing me a bottle of poison. He puts his hand out and his hand's got razor wires on it and shit. It was fuck it. I don't know what the fuck was going on. With that. I don't know what's going on with that spice, but it's like, holy shit, that is some bad stuff. But in hindsight, I bet you're like this. All your most fucked up experiences, you just sometimes just gotta look back and laugh and realize they did make me the man I am today. But it doesn't mean you should go through it, audience. But you should look. Don't try and demonize your bad experiences. Try and see the love in them. At least that's how I see it.
Exactly. Well, because it's not like, because it's like all the mistakes that you do in your life. It's not necessarily that they were good and had to happen, but it's more of having a healthy mindset of, well, they did happen, so I'm gonna bring the positive out of it. Doesn't mean that everyone else has to do it. You gotta be smart about it. A wise man learns from other people's mistakes.
Yes.
A fool makes his own.
That's like a motto for my channel, because that's sort of why I love. Obviously, I think what got traction for me was the mystical experiences, my own included. But I prefer sharing the sort of like not even nightmarish, but just like shocking trip reports. You can have a shockingly positive experience, but you can have a shockingly negative experience.
For sure.
And I think they're the ones you can learn from. That's why I love sharing these datura trip reports, because it's like every single time I read one, it just hammers home that I don't need to do it. But we know what people are like. Some people are just wired up to have the curiosity killed the cat sort of mind process. But what can you do? Like, this is why with our field, the disclaimers. The disclaimers aren't just to keep YouTube away from taking it off the platform. I genuinely do care about people's well-being, as do you.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, you want to share these experiences regardless, right? But then you also realize that there are some susceptible people to doing dumb things. But then that's like just in life in general,
Yeah.
It's like, just to put I'm sure there are kids who play GTA and then fucking end up stealing a car, even though it's like a tiny percentage.
Yeah.
There's always going to be some idiots out there.
Yep.
Some
people are more impressionable than others, and you can't put a shield around everybody. Some people are just rampant egos who are just like, no, I'll fucking do it all, man. Like, fucking do it. And then they get that rude awakening, which in a sense, obviously, it'll be horrific for them to experience. If they use that and integrate it, they can turn it into something very positive.
Exactly. Maybe it could be part of evolution too. Sometimes you just got to let the stupid people do what they do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I like how you tie. This is something I think we've forgotten sort of in this modern technological era. The ties between the human now and the human back in the caveman days. we're still intrinsically linked the way our minds work. And I like how you tie that in, because I think we're forgetting that connection in culture today. It's like, why am I ADHD? Why am I scatterbrained? It's like you said, you were the hunter back in the day, and it's good for people to recognize that, I think.
Exactly, and it's like it was a very small percentage as opposed to the kind of like more the farmer brain type, but it is there, like because the hunters were the ones who took the big risk to go out into the unknown, so it was a little bit more dangerous. But it was also what I found interesting, just to tie back at the beginning of our conversation about ADHD, is that the hunter. What's interesting is that the hunter would spend like all day basically hunting like game, right? This big animal, but then once you catch it, you put all your attention, all your focus, like your whole world is just tracking down this one animal. And then when you catch it, boom, you've got food to feed your community for sometimes even weeks. So the hunter is like, would work very intensely for a short period of time, and then it'll just be relaxing, hanging out with the community, doing art, stuff like that. That's why we're not wired to do the constantly, doing 80-hour work weeks. It's more like really, really intense, and then you kind of rest, and then really intense work, and then and that's fine. That's okay. Don't let the disorder in ADHD trick you into thinking that you have a fucked up brain and that you need help and that you're broken or whatever. I think that's why I don't like the term ADHD, because I don't think it's a disorder.
No, me neither. Well said, mate. I really love that, and I like the theme of things coming full circle, because my channel has now come full circle. Been watching this guy for fucking like 9 years, and now we're literally talking to each other. You can manifest your dreams, everybody. Genuinely, you can do it, can't you? But in it's surreal though, isn't it? Like for me, just watching you, and I'm just like, me and my mate, funny enough, called Tom, who loves your content. I was like, mate, Tom's just one of them lads that you can just like chat shit with him, and just have like a proper good conversation with him. It's like, yeah, we'd be sick just bumping into him, and then it's like skip 9 years later, and somehow reality manifests this. And if you really have a drive to make something, you can do it, can't you? And that's a superpower of the ADHD. You become obsessed, don't you? You become super obsessed with stuff like this, and it happens.
Yeah, exactly. And like just like surrounding yourself with like I'm always a huge proponent of just signing up to different courses, or like getting coaching, or like kind of getting mentored by the people who are ahead, so that way you can kind of fast track your progress. Just reading, just absorbing yourself, like just immersing yourself in knowledge and learning, because why not? It's like leveling up your character, right?
Absolutely. We love them video game analogies, Tom. Keep them coming.
Jeez, bro. Yeah, always. I can't help myself.
Just to cap the episode off, just wanted to ask some questions that people have got. Someone asked you, have you ever taken Syrian Rue before, or know much about it?
Yes, I have actually. Aussie Waska, as they call it over here.
That's sick.
Which was Syrian Rue and Acacia. So I did it. It was basically through like a ayahuasca ceremony here in Australia a few years ago. And yeah, very, very similar to ayahuasca, but again, maybe because I was in Australia or whatever, but instead of like South American spirits, it was like Aborigine spirits kind of thing, but very similar. Like there isn't a very distinct characteristic that I can point to and be like, oh, Syrian Rue is more like this, ayahuasca is more like this, because it's the culture as well and the environment. Like if you were to take LSD in Australia, in the Australian outback versus the Amazon rainforest, you're going to have two completely different trips, even though it's the same substance. But yeah,
you sort of tap into the energetic quality of your environment. You take in fucking 2CB in a council estate in England versus in Antarctica, it's going to be fucking completely different. Absolutely,
exactly.
Someone asked you,
I have had experience.
Nice one. Someone asked you, what's your advice on taking psychedelics if you've had psychosis before? I don't think it would be a good idea for me to do so.
I would probably, just to be on the safe side, I'd say avoid it.
Yeah.
And maybe get through get some like therapy or some coaching, someone to kind of help you through that process, and just focus on another goal kind of thing. And maybe you could consider microdosing, but if you were to do that, honestly, I'd do that under the guidance of somebody.
There's so many other
If you
areas in your life
yeah.
that you can hone your energy into. Psychedelics are obviously we're massive proponents of psychedelics, but they aren't the be all and end all as we've touched upon in this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Use creativity, some creative outlet. I would highly recommend
Mm.
because I'm sure you can get some, especially if you had these psychotic, uh, I guess, yeah, experiences, and you could utilize that and transmute it into something creative,
Mm.
like writing a story or painting, drawing, or whatever your creative outlet is.
What headphones does Vivec have? They're Pioneer headphones. I'm a DJ, so just you gotta have that crisp clarity. I love that. So someone asked, how question for both of you. How have you guys navigated moments of confusion and loneliness in those moments you feel defeated in ever knowing anything? Is that sort of like, I think that's what I try to say is like the overwhelming nature of just realizing, oh shit, the infinitude of life. Because I have been very confused when I try and dissect reality too much.
For sure. What would you say?
How have I navigated it? The main thing for me is just sort of tapping back into myself and realizing that okay, you're trying to bite off more than you can chew. You're breaking down too many barriers, as we said before, and this is your consciousness or the universe or whatever you want to call it, man, telling you to just fucking chill out and go and write a story, pick the guitar up, or even just fucking go back to stuff you used to enjoy, start playing video games again, start enjoying the material stuff and get lost in the dream again. That's what I do. That's what I'm started doing now. I was talking to you about like I'm coming out of this dark night of the soul where I'm like I've been so obsessed for like the past 10 years with like psychedelics, and then in this past 2 years of like now been coming out of it and just really chilling out, but there's this residual energy of like I'll go to bed and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to bed. And then it's something hit me like, but did you know Cthulhu exists in this other reality that you could experience, blah, 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 and all that. And it's like, oh, this is just more proof to me that, like, I'm confused and I need to just go on fucking touch some grass or something. So, yeah, how would you navigate psychedelic confusion then? I'll frame it in that way.
Yeah, well, I would agree with pretty much everything you said of just regrounding yourself with physical reality. But then also, because I've been through this before, I would say stop. If you're at this particular season in life of just ultra confusion, just drop the philosophy. Just
Yeah.
stop going down those rabbit holes, just for at least for the moment until you recalibrate and focus on a career. Sign up to a course, give yourself a goal,
Yeah. Because sometimes
and just do that because yeah,
sometimes the goal
go
for a
ahead.
lot of sometimes the goal for a lot of psychonauts becomes like the God realization, the transcendence, and it's like, mate, I'm not being funny, but you can have these God realizations all you want, but you're still gonna come back here. I've had God realizations and all these like galaxy brain, alien hive mind moments. I'm still back here in front of my laptop, so I'm obviously here for a reason. I'm here to live the human life, and part of that is carving out meaning within the third dimension, the physical realm of all the challenges it entails.
Exactly.
And then if you keep escaping, you're gonna get you're gonna get hyper slapped by something. Right.
Exactly. You're probably going to go back to that realm when you die anyway. So
There you
for
go.
a limited time here, just enjoy this.
Yeah, you
Enjoy
go.
the ride.
Yeah, you go in there anyway.
But try to be
mate.
good at it. Because
Yeah.
a game it's like a video game. A game is always better when you improve at it.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
Because if you suck at a video game, then it's boring. It sucks. You're like, I want to escape. Fuck this. Rage quit, and you don't want to play anymore. Except that this isn't a video game in the sense that you can just quit and start playing another one. It's like this is the only game that we have that's constant. So it's like you have no choice but to learn to be good at it. And the better you are at this game, the funner life becomes, the more options open up to you.
Almost in a sort of trippy metaphysical sense, it's like if you could end the game now, if I could, like, I don't know, commit Mahasamadhi or whatever, I feel like my consciousness is the purity of consciousness will like, okay, whatever, I'm going back to the Godhead or whatever, and then I feel like I'd go into the Godhead and be like, okay, right, that was a really stupid idea, come straight back, because I've obviously come here you're obviously here for a reason. I remember again back to the video games, Sekiro, the samurai Dark Souls type game.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
I couldn't, and I'm a fucking Dark Souls veteran, and like, well, I thought I was. I thought I could do it all. I've been playing them Demon Souls since literally been there since the beginning. I was like, I can handle anything. So then I get to the last boss, and he's fucking mega him, and I could not figure out how to do it. So I went on Cheat Engine and just put myself on God mode because I just wanted to find out what happened at the ending. And when I beat that boss, I was so super depressed because I was like, I've just cheated this thing that gives me that deep sense of reward and satisfaction that challenges me. And if I just had trained myself a bit harder and got better, I would have done it and been like, oh wow, that was an obstacle I'd overcome. So in a sense, in life,
Exactly.
don't put cheat
It's the
engine on.
climb. Yeah, it's the climb. And even if you reach the top of the mountain, it's like, all right, enjoy it, but then no one lives at the top of a mountain. Now, so you just got to go to the next one. That's why, like, you hear, people who have like hundreds of millions of dollars, they still don't be satisfied. They still need to grow, and that's okay. Like, you have to keep going. Don't be so obsessed with it that you're just fucking crazy in your everyday life, but like, you got to keep going.
Absolutely.
Got to grow in some capacity. That's human nature.
Damn right. What's the gig with shared trips and visions when two people trip together? It's happened to me and is the most strange thing about psychedelics. That's like opening Pandora's box now. How do we perceive consciousness? Is there a separation between self? Because I would say I've had like my first ever breakthrough on any psychedelic was on LSD, and it was literally, I was like fucking staunch, like logical materialist before this day, and then literally just had like a Kundalini away. And this is fascinating, actually. There's another a tie-in between my life and your content. When you were interviewed Jared Wright, and he was explaining what a Kundalini awakening feels like. And I was like, oh shit, that's exactly what happened to me. And I had that Kundalini awakening experience on LSD, and I smoked cannabis on the peak, which things get pretty crazy when you do that. Do not do that, kids. It's like playing Russian roulette, psychedelic Russian roulette. But and that moment, me and my mate were like, we had experienced telepathy. And I think it's because we were both. I'm going to explain it in like very woo-woo terms. It was like we were operating on the very same conscious frequency to the point where we didn't need to like open our mouths, and we were like became some form of like connected mind. So my explanation for that is that consciousness operates on frequencies. It can be very restricted. It can be like a fruit fly, or it can be like a grey alien or something. And then you've got humans. You might have a mate who's like a bit more like primitively minded. Give him a bit of LSD, and maybe it gets up to your level, and you're having like some trippy experience, and maybe you'll start merging together. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't really know either.
I don't know. But I guess I do look at humanity as like one giant organism. So there are even just in normal waking consciousness, we're intricately linked. I mean, we have things like mirror neurons. If I see you do something, my neurons fire as if I'm doing it. But then there is just certain mechanics in the body that stop me from acting it out. So I think on a fundamental level, we're all connected. Even Carl Jung talks about the collective unconscious.
Yeah.
As there's this shared archetypical reality that all human beings have. That's one of the theories of the whole DMT experiences, of all these different worlds that we go into. Could be that shared human reality. And so, yeah, maybe psychedelics in a way, because they dissolve our boundaries, and then we kind of sometimes merge experiences, and we have these shared trips, these shared visions.
Yeah, that's very interesting you said about the neurons as well, because I think this is another thing I am a lot more mystically inclined. 100%. I'm honest with that. That's a natural bias I have, just based upon my like fucking crazy experiences where I feel like I've transcended the brain and transcended physicality. But right now, in this dream, this simulation, whatever you want to call it, right, you are operating through the brain's operating system, and like sometimes I think psychonauts do get a bit lost on the mystical explanations, and then, oh my god, it's all just synchronicities, like this thing happened, and I was like, oh my god, it's like breadcrumb trails, and that. I do think that's that's very real as well, but also on a physical level, you see someone, I'll see my mate or whatever, maybe we'll pick up our phones at the same time, or maybe we'll scratch like the same part of our face at the same time, because on a level, your brain actually just sees something and it makes a reaction, doesn't it? So there's so many different explanations for this these crazy things that happen. But don't forget about the sort of mundane physical ones, because they have a reality as well.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just a reflection of the deeper metaphysical truths. You can
Yes.
even see, like, I remember when I was a salesman for a phone company, and I would just do it all the time. Like every time I'm talking to a customer, I'll just like casually shift into a different body position, and then like 10 seconds later, then they'll start to do that, or I'll cross my leg. And it was just like a little game that I played in my mind. I'm like, dude, that's so funny. All humans do it.
Yeah, yeah, we do, don't we? Well, this has been
Just to kind of match each other.
yeah, yeah, we
Sorry.
do.
Go ahead.
We do. Where you're fully right. We match each other's energy, and that's where the best relationships come from. For well, friends, intimate relationships. When you're operating on the same wavelength, you gravitate towards each other. You grow together, and yeah, just thought I'd end on a nice little happy note, because I'd love to pick your brain for the rest of time, Tom, but it's definitely getting past my bedtime now. But
Oh, good man. Maybe next time if you're up for it. But yeah, I really appreciate this conversation.
Oh,
A lot
yeah.
of fun. Yeah, just right up.
It's been
Yeah, right up
excellent.
my alley.
I really
Talking about ADHD, video games, psychedelics, travel. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit. Yeah, we it's a bit of everything. That's the most ADHD thing ever. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this thing. But it's like, yeah, we've just scratched the surface. I'd love to have you on again. I have this other podcast, right, called Dissecting Reality,
Okay.
where it's more about like the metaphysical side. So we could get super deep into that. Because I guess
Nice,
we just
okay.
started. I guess we just started touching upon that towards the end, because I'd love to. I'd love to get inside your neurons and see what's going on there. So yeah, if you're up for that,
You don't you don't want to go inside my mind, mate.
No,
All right,
yeah.
let's do it anyway.
we've opened Pandora's box now. So
Swimming through the neurons. Fuck yeah.
we're gonna merge into an alien hive mind in 10 years, and then we'll be making this podcast in like some virtual reality someday. So look forward to that, folks. And thank you very much for replying to me. It really made my day that you said you're up for this. You're a serious geezer.
Yeah, all good, man. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Right,
Appreciate the work that you're putting out there, and yeah, looking forward to seeing this
You too.
pop up.
Yes, we love it. Looking forward to see your Syrian route. Was it not Syrian route? San Pedro video, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. Well, it's just mescaline in general, but yeah, obviously a lot about San Pedro in
Oh.
there. So
Oh, I'll be getting tuned into that. All right, lad.
sick, awesome, man. Well, yeah, we'll keep in touch, and we'd love to do this again sometime.
I will do, man. Right, I'll see you on the other side, G.
All right, mate. Sweet dreams.
See you
Have
later,
a lucid
bro.
dream for me.
Fucking right, son.
Catch you later.
See you later, G. Oh, what a fucking... Oh, tell us about your call experience. I'm very, very happy. I hope you all loved that. That was a really great moment for the Vivec consciousness, because I've been looking up to this guy for 9 years now. He's my main inspiration for the channel. There would be no Vivec without your mate Tom, or our lad Tom, as we say up north. And thank you all for tuning in. Some great questions as well, by the way. I really appreciated the quality of your questions that you threw out there. And I'd love to get him on again to maybe get a bit deeper into the metaphysical, spiritual, mystical consciousness sort of jazz that we like to talk about on Vivec. So, yep, hope you guys are sound. And yes, my neurons are now short-circuiting. So, yep,